Hey guys, Sorin here. So today we're gonna talk about benchmarks. Why are they useful? What are they? Why do we use them? Why should you try a benchmark? And stress test programs to test the stability of our hardware. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any uncertainties or want to ask me anything regarding this subject. And let's get on to it. When we're talking about computers and benchmarks, benchmarks are usually a program or a set of programs that are meant to make a benchmark, a baseline of our current system, of its performance. In the meantime, you're also seeing the stability of the system. I mean, your PC, if you overclock it too much, can shut down while benchmarking. Now, benchmarking is done by using certain software, and some games also have a benchmark feature in them. Software like 3D Mark, PC Mark, and others, Unigine Heaven, for example, are very great to determine the stability, partly, and the performance especially of your current GPU, CPU, or the whole system as a full PC. Now, mind you, we can also call benchmark a website like speedtest.net, in which we're benchmarking or testing the speed of our internet connection. Basically everything can be benchmarked. Think of utilities to see the speed of your SSD. That's a benchmark. You just set a baseline and found out the current performance of your SSD or HDD. Now, why should we do a benchmark? Instead of just playing the goddamn game, we want to play and see how it performs, our FPS and everything. Well, you see, there are a couple of things here. When you're benchmarking something, the tests, the actual tests that are run, the workload that your hardware needs to run in order to get a score or that FPS or the temperature, the max temperature, it's always the same. When you run 3D Mark TimeSpy graphics test, it's always identical from run to run. Nothing is different, no variable. So this GPU, another GPU, your GPU tomorrow will have to run the exact same things. This is very important when analyzing for performance, because if you were just to go in a game and play, I don't know, Hitman for 10 minutes, well, what if this time you move your mouse slightly to the left or slightly to the right? Your GPU and CPU will have to process different things than the previous run. So that's why your results will be inconsistent. Mind you, it will give you a good idea of how things work, but if you want to be extremely precise, or as precise as you can get, you should run a benchmark, especially when you're trying to undervolt, overvolt and overclock, because you just need to know the overall performance, increase or decrease. For example, if you undervolt your CPU and you want to test if your performance has dropped, it's a good idea to run in your usual games and programs, whatever you do. But to properly determine, you should run a benchmark like Cinebench, for example. That's why if you test before undervolting and after undervolting, let's say 3 times each time, you can properly see if the performance was lost or gained upon undervolting. And this applies to overclocking also. Now, what about stress test programs like Furmark, like Intel Burn Test, and there are a couple of others? Well, stress test programs are designed to stress your PC, mostly a certain component sometimes. So let's say you've just overclocked or undervolted your CPU and you're not sure if it's stable. Okay, it ran 3D Mark, you could play 30 minutes in your favorite game and everything is okay, but is it really stable? Is it 24/7 stable? That's what you find out with a stress test program. That stress test stresses your hardware continuously up to 100% for as long as you leave it to run. So if your overclock is, or undervolt, or whatever you did to your hardware is stable for 1 hour, It might not be for 5 hours. Why? Because after running this stress for continuous time, temperatures can increase even more. So your overclock or your undervolt might not be that stable at a certain temperature. So if you want to really be sure that your components are 24/7 stable, you should run a few hours of a stress test program for GPU, for CPU, or for the whole system, whatever. So this can also bring up problems like PCU delivery power. If nothing is overclocked, your system is completely stuck, and when you stress test the whole system, the system reboots or other janky stuff like that, well, there might be something wrong with the PCU or with the RAM. You have special utilities like memtest to completely test the RAM. These take a while, but they tell you with a pretty good accuracy if your RAM sticks are good or not. So that's about it regarding benchmarks and stress programs, why we use them, why are they useful, and I encourage you to always once in a while run a benchmark on your PC. This way you can see if performance was lost over time. Heck, you can even test if your PC is too dusty. I mean, if it's been a while since you last cleaned it up, and you have a baseline benchmark from when you first assembled your PC, just running it right now will tell you if there's a temperature problem or a performance problem based on the temperature problem. So then you should clean it if that's the case. Doing not often, I mean, if you're not dibbling and meddling with your PC for fun every day, you can do a benchmark once in a couple of months to ensure that your system is running properly and everything is up to par as it should be based on the condition you assembled it first. So if this video was helpful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me what other videos like this would you like to see in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.